as to why he wasn't there for me when I was young. And it just sucked.
When Robyn Brown smiled for the cameras and called their new $2.1 million mansion a fresh start, viewers almost believed her. The glossy aerial shots, the lush pine trees of Flagstaff, the sprawling red estate framed by the Arizona sunset. It all looked perfect. Too perfect. "This is our forever home," she said, her voice trembling with that practiced warmth fans have come to recognize. "Closer to the kids' college, closer to the girls' church. I see a lot of future here. But here's the thing. Every time Robyn says the word forever, it becomes a countdown. Because history doesn't lie." Since joining the Brown family in 2009, Robyn has lived in more homes than most families will in a lifetime. A small apartment in St. George, then a rental in Lehigh, then Vegas, then Flagstaff, then another rental, then another. 7 moves in 15 years. An average of 2 years per house. If that's stability, then the sky isn't blue. This time, though, it's different. At least that's the story they're selling. Robyn and Kody's $2 million forever home was supposed to be their clean slate, their redemption arc, a symbol of survival after the collapse of their plural family. Except there's one problem. No one buys a house with this much dirt, literally and figuratively, and calls it a blessing. Because while Robyn was crying on camera about family healing, the truth was sitting right outside her picture-perfect windows. A toxic, dust-spewing cinder mine called Sheep Hill. You read that right. Their dream home sits next to one of Flagstaff's most polluted industrial sites, a pit that's been releasing microscopic poison into the air for years. And if that sounds bad, just wait until you find out what it's doing to their kids. So, how did this happen? How did Kody and Robyn, the self-proclaimed careful planners, end up spending millions on what locals call the red dust zone? It starts with a realtor who played both sides. The seller's agent, also working for them, pocketed double commission. It's legal, sure, but it's shady, especially when that realtor conveniently forgot to mention the mine in the backyard. The truth? This property has changed hands 5 times since it was built in 2002. Each owner moved in full of hope, then left within a few years, defeated. Some rented it out. Some just walked away. Because behind the beautiful architecture is a nightmare no filter can hide. When you look at satellite images, you'll notice something chilling. The property sits right on the edge of a cul-de-sac, and behind it, nothing but the yawning black pit of the mine. Every breeze carries a storm of red powder, dust so fine it seeps into walls, into vents, into lungs. And now, Kody and Robyn's kids breathe that same air every single day. Ironically, this is the same couple who once refused family gatherings over safety concerns. The same Robyn who said she couldn't risk exposure because of her pneumonia history. The same Kody who isolated from his own sons to protect Solomon's health. Now, they've willingly moved next to one of the dirtiest industrial sites in Arizona. It's more than irony. It's hypocrisy coated in toxic dust. Locals near Sheep Hill have been complaining for years. Asthma, constant coughing, dust storms turning porches red, property values collapsing. And the city? Quiet, because that mine keeps producing money. But to the Browns, this was the start of something new. As Kody proudly said, "It's our fresh beginning. We can finally breathe again." The irony writes itself. What's even worse is the symbolism. The house, painted a dark reddish-brown, matches the exact color of the mine's dust. It's not coincidence. It's camouflage. The previous owners repainted the exterior to blend in with the pollution, to hide the evidence. On camera, the Browns call it earthy. Locals call it survival. So why would they buy it? Simple. They needed a story. TLC needed a redemption arc. Kody needed control. Robyn needed an image. A picture of peace. A fantasy of normalcy. But beneath that picture-perfect exterior lies a secret that could destroy them. Because this $2 million house isn't just another move. It's a ticking time bomb. And when the dust finally settles, literally and figuratively, Kody and Robyn won't just be fighting for their image. They'll be fighting for their health, their family, and maybe for the last bit of sanity they still have left. The dream home is already turning into a nightmare, and the walls, just like the truth, are starting to crack. By the time the moving trucks rolled up to the Flagstaff mansion, the cameras were already waiting. The producers knew this was gold. Kody Brown unloading boxes under the Arizona sun, calling this the start of a new chapter. But the locals weren't clapping. They were whispering. Because anyone from Flagstaff knows about Sheep Hill. It's not just a mine, it's a scar on the landscape, a crater that never stops breathing poison into the air. And guess who moved right next to it? The Browns, the same family that preaches fresh air, healthy living, and family unity. Residents in the area have been filing complaints for years. Reports of respiratory illness, cars coated in red dust within hours, windowsills turning pink, babies coughing through the night, and now the famous Brown family has joined the list of neighbors choking on the same dirt. The air quality near Sheep Hill is classified as hazardous during peak wind. When the wind picks up, microscopic particles fill the sky, PM10 and PM2.5, the kind that settle deep into your lungs and never come back out. Locals wear masks outside. Not because of a virus, because of the dust. Here's the disturbing part. Robyn knows about this. She's been living in Flagstaff for years. She knows the area. She's filmed scenes talking about health risks before. So how did she not see this one coming? The answer might shock you. Sources close to the production say TLC was desperate to keep Kody and Robyn in a big, marketable home for filming. The show needed grandeur, luxury, something to contrast with the broken ex-wives. And this mansion fit the bill. A 5,500 square foot home, 2,000 square foot guest house, open layout, 5 bathrooms, private road. It looked like success. It looked like the Browns had finally made it. What the cameras didn't show was the constant red haze hovering over the backyard. One former neighbor described it best. You can dust your house in the morning, and by evening it looks like Mars again. That's what the Browns walked into. A property so close to contamination that its siding had to be repainted to hide the stains. But here's where things get darker. Financial records reveal that this wasn't a standard purchase. It was a desperate one. After the other wives left, Kody's finances were stretched thin. Christine and Janelle took their money and independence. Mary pulled out quietly, and Robyn? She stayed, which meant she became the face and financial partner of whatever Kody had left. So when this house went on the market, for less than comparable properties, it was a deal. A $2 million bargain. In their words, except bargains usually come with fine print. The fine print here? Contamination warnings buried in environmental reports. Records showing multiple ownership turnovers. Structural concerns from long-term dust exposure. All ignored. Because Kody wanted something big enough to scream, "We're still winning." And Robyn? She wanted something that proved she was still the last wife standing. But let's be honest. What they really bought wasn't a home. It was a facade, a set piece for the cameras. And behind that glossy real estate listing, they've trapped their kids inside a chemical cloud. Solomon and Ariella, the 2 youngest, spend their days playing in the yard that locals won't even walk near. The dust coats their toys, their swings, their shoes. Doctors in the area warn that long-term exposure to this kind of air can cause chronic asthma, bronchitis, even developmental issues in children. Imagine being a parent, knowing that every breath your child takes could be slowly poisoning them, and still pretending everything's fine. But here's the cruel twist. It's not just about health. It's psychological too, because this house, like everyone before it, was supposed to symbolize stability, a place for the family to finally settle, a chance to move past years of chaos. Instead, it's another chapter in Kody and Robyn's endless cycle of denial. Every time they move, they call it healing. Every new zip code becomes a band-aid on a wound that never closes. Vegas didn't fix them. Flagstaff didn't fix them. And now this house, this so-called dream home, is eating away at them from the inside out. It's not just toxic air. It's toxic pride, Kody's obsession with image, Robyn's need for validation, the kids trapped between fantasy and fallout. The Browns have built an empire of red dust, and the foundation is already cracking. Because no matter how beautiful the house looks on TV, you can't bury poison under pretty walls. The first sign that something was wrong came quietly. not through gossip or news reports, through coughing. Neighbors started noticing. "The little ones sound sick," one said, "always coughing when the wind picks up." At first, Robyn brushed it off. "Arizona air is dry," she said. "The dust is natural. They were just adjusting. But you can't adjust to poison. The red dust didn't just sit outside. It found its way into everything. HVAC filters clogged in weeks. The once shiny hardwood floors turned dull. The air vents blew a fine, rust-colored mist every time the AC kicked in. You could wipe the counters clean in the morning, and by dinner, they looked like someone had dumped cinnamon powder across them, and it wasn't long before the symptoms started. Ariella, the youngest, developed a persistent cough. Solomon complained of headaches. Robyn herself started wheezing during filming. At first, producers thought it was emotional, another teary moment for the camera. But off-screen, it was worse. She couldn't sleep through the night without coughing. The irony is brutal. Robyn, who once refused to see family because of health risks, was now breathing air full of microscopic poison. PM10 and PM2.5. Those are the particles the mine releases. The ones small enough to enter your bloodstream, the ones linked to asthma, bronchitis, even long-term lung damage. And the worst part? The mine runs just a few hundred yards from their property line. Every gust of wind carries red dust straight into their backyard. Locals have been complaining for years, but no one listens. The mine keeps operating because it's grandfathered under old zoning laws. The EPA has limited authority here. The city doesn't want to fight, so people either move away or breathe it in. And now, Kody and Robyn are learning what that means. Let's talk about the house itself, because even that isn't safe. The dust has been seeping into the structure for years. Under the floors, behind the walls, into the insulation. Once those particles settle, they don't leave. Experts call it embedded contamination. It's invisible, permanent, and nearly impossible to remove. You can clean surfaces, but you can't clean your walls. One inspection report from a previous owner even mentioned significant air particulate presence inside the ducting system. They had installed special filters and purifiers throughout the home, but Robyn and Kody didn't do the same. Why? Because it costs money, tens of thousands for full remediation. And after years of debt and property juggling, they didn't want another bill. They chose denial instead, because in Kody's world, admitting a mistake means losing control. So he doubled down. He told the kids not to play outside on windy days. He insisted they keep windows closed, for allergies. He turned a toxic environment into a family rule book. Meanwhile, the house itself became a symbol of everything wrong with this new version of the Browns, too big for their needs, too expensive for their finances, too dangerous for their health, and yet Robyn walks through it like a set piece. During filming, she points to the vaulted ceilings and says things like, "I can feel peace here." Peace doesn't live next to a mine. But for Robyn, it's not about air quality. It's about control of the narrative. She needs to believe she's still the chosen one, the wife who stayed, the one who won Kody's love after everyone else walked away. So she keeps smiling for the cameras, even as the dust collects on her eyelashes. And Kody? He's busy convincing himself this house proves he's still the head of something. A man with a mansion, even if his kingdom is collapsing. Behind the scenes, the producers know what they have. A gold mine of delusion. Every shot of the family laughing in the kitchen is followed by a quiet cough. Every close-up of Robyn's tears is filmed through air that glitters with dust. The symbolism is hard to miss, because this isn't just about a house. It's about a family choking on the consequences of their own choices. The mine next door didn't just poison their lungs. It exposed their truth. The Browns didn't move to find peace. They moved to bury the chaos. And instead, they dug themselves deeper. In a house painted to match the dirt. In a neighborhood no one else wants. And in a life they keep pretending is blessed. But the air doesn't lie. and sooner or later, the camera won't either. At first, the damage was subtle. A hairline crack in the living room wall, a faint vibration in the floors when the mine machinery started up before dawn. But within months, those cracks grew wider. The foundation of Kody and Robyn's $2 million home began to shift. Literally. Locals know this story well. The vibrations from Sheep Hill Mine are constant. The ground rumbles like a slow earthquake whenever heavy equipment runs. Most homes within a mile develop minor structural issues within 2 years. And the Browns' mansion? It sits right on the edge of that zone. When the filming crew arrived one morning, they noticed fine red powder lining the baseboards. Not just dust from the air, dust being pushed up through tiny gaps in the concrete. The earth itself was breathing through their floors. Contractors later confirmed what everyone suspected. The mine's blasting in trucks had caused soil movement beneath several properties in the area. Foundation stress, wall shifting. It was happening again, right under the Browns' perfect new dream home. But Kody didn't want to hear it. When Robyn brought it up, he brushed her off. "It's just settling," he said. "All houses do this. But houses don't shake when the wind changes, and houses don't cough." The air inside theirs had become so heavy with fine dust that even air purifiers couldn't keep up. The filters turned red within days. The smell of iron filled the halls. The kids complained of dry throats, sore eyes, fatigue. Still, Robyn filmed her scenes. Still, Kody called it a blessing. Because this wasn't about truth anymore. It was about image. Their family's TV empire was fading. TLC wanted footage. Fans wanted a story. And Kody, desperate to appear strong, refused to admit he'd made another bad choice. So he doubled down again. He told the crew to keep filming outside. He said the light looked better. But everyone knew it was to hide the cracks, the stains, the dirt. Meanwhile, the neighbors had had enough. Complaints about noise and dust had spiked since the Browns moved in. Some claimed that mine traffic increased, likely because of renewed attention on the area. Cameras, producers, delivery trucks. All of it stirred up more dust. One local posted online, "They moved here for peace. We got chaos, we can't breathe." And they weren't wrong. While Kody and Robyn filmed family dinners and heart-to-hearts, the red haze grew thicker. Sometimes, you couldn't see the hills behind the house. On bad days, the air looked tinted orange under the sun. Still, Kody refused to relocate. Because if they moved again, the illusion would shatter. Robyn had already claimed on camera that this home was her forever place. Moving again would mean admitting defeat, not just to the audience, but to herself. So she convinced herself the dust was manageable. She hired a cleaning service 3 times a week, installed perfume diffusers to mask the smell, told the kids not to open doors during wind hours. It became routine, a schedule of denial. But while they tried to mask the outside contamination, something worse was building inside. The kids were getting sick more often. Solomon missed several days of school due to respiratory infections. Ariella's allergies turned into chronic asthma. Doctors started asking questions. Was there mold? Was there environmental exposure? Robyn avoided specifics. She told them they were adjusting to new surroundings because she couldn't admit the truth. Not out loud. Not even to herself. Behind the scenes, TLC producers were growing uneasy. A location scout reported visible dust film on camera lenses during exterior shots. They began limiting filming near the backyard. Even the crew started wearing masks. Meanwhile, the cracks in the foundation worsened. One by the staircase split open, wide enough to fit a coin, and Robyn finally lost it. In one unfilmed moment, she reportedly broke down in tears, yelling at Kody that the house was cursed. That every time they bought property, something went wrong. Vegas, Coyote Pass. Now this. But Kody just stood there, silent, because deep down, he knew she was right. This house wasn't a home. It was another monument to his pride. Every decision, every purchase, every failed project, all of it came from the same place. Control. He wanted to prove he could rebuild his family from the ruins, but you can't rebuild when your foundation is rotten. And in that mansion, surrounded by red dust and silence, Kody Brown's empire was quietly crumbling. Not from scandal. Not from gossip, from the ground beneath his feet. By now even the crew could see it. The Browns' so-called fresh start was collapsing under its own weight. But on camera, Robyn refused to let the cracks show. When the producers asked her how she felt about the new home, she smiled. "It's peaceful," she said softly. "It's the first time in years I feel settled." But her voice shook on that last word. Peaceful? The walls were cracking. The kids were coughing. The dust was visible in the air. You could see it on the footage, a faint haze floating through the light every time someone walked past a window. The editors cleaned it up for TV. But the truth bled through. Robyn's face told the story. Tired eyes, hoarse voice, the weight of pretending everything was fine. Because this house wasn't peace. It was pressure. Pressure to perform, pressure to look happy, pressure to prove that staying with Kody had been worth it. She wasn't just holding up walls made of drywall. She was holding up the illusion of a marriage, and it was getting harder every day. Behind the scenes, things were unraveling fast. Kody's finances were worse than anyone realized. With no more sister wives contributing income, he was relying almost entirely on TLC money and side deals to keep the lights on. The mortgage on the Flagstaff house alone was a monster. $2.1 million for a property that no one else wanted. Every payment was a reminder of the mistake. So, when the crew started asking questions about the house's location near Sheep Hill Mine, Kody lost his temper. "I don't care what the internet says," he snapped. "This is our home. It's not toxic. It's perfect." Perfect. That's Kody's favorite word. It's what he says every time something's falling apart. When Christine left, he said everything was fine. When Janelle walked away, he called it temporary. When the Coyote Pass project died, he said it was perfect timing, and now, he was saying it again. He'd rather choke on red dust than admit defeat. But Robyn was running out of energy to play along. The housework never stopped. Layers of red film coated everything. The kids couldn't play outside without tracking dust inside. The cleaning crews refused to come more than twice a week because of the mine debris. Neighbors noticed Robyn driving with the car windows sealed shut, even in good weather. And still, she called this a blessing. Here's the cruelest part. She believed it. Because if she didn't, she'd have to face the truth, that she gave up everything for a man who keeps building castles on cursed ground. This was supposed to be her redemption story. The wife who stayed loyal, the one who got the life the others didn't, the big house, the security, the final victory. But instead, she's trapped. In a house that looks like a dream and breathes like a nightmare. Even the kids have started noticing. Ariella asked why the air smells like dirt. Solomon told his friends he can't go outside when the air's bad. And the older kids, Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna, are quietly making plans to move out. They don't film much anymore. They've had enough of the cameras, enough of the lies, enough of pretending that everything is fine while the walls are literally cracking around them. Robyn tries to hold it together, but her breakdowns are becoming harder to hide. She cries in confessionals about change, about challenges, about letting go of the past. But the audience sees it. The exhaustion, the fear. Because she's not crying about the past anymore. She's crying about the house she's still living in. The house that won't stop reminding her that no matter how many times she moves, she can't escape herself, or Kody. He calls this their new chapter. But it's just the same story, written in red dust instead of ink. Every night, Robyn wipes down the counters, lights candles, and tells herself it's just dust. But deep down, She knows. It's something else. It's everything she's tried to hide. Her regret, her exhaustion, her fear of what happens when even this perfect illusion collapses. And that collapse is coming. Because once the dust settles, the truth will show through. And there's not enough perfume in the world to cover the smell of denial. By the time fall rolled into Flagstaff, the Browns' new beginning had turned into a quiet crisis. The mine behind their property ramped up production before winter. More trucks, more dust, more noise. The sound of grinding machinery became their new morning alarm, and that was when the mask started to slip. TLC crews noticed Robyn snapping at producers. Her patience, once polished for the camera, was gone. "Stop asking about the air," she barked during one shoot. "It's not the air. It's allergies, allergies." That was her line. Over and over, but allergies don't make your kids cough blood. One night, Solomon woke up struggling to breathe. They rushed him to urgent care, thinking it was another RSV flare-up. The doctor ran tests. The diagnosis was worse. Severe irritation caused by environmental exposure. Translation? The air in their home was toxic. Robyn cried in the parking lot, clutching Solomon like he was a newborn again. The irony was unbearable. The same mother who once used health concerns to isolate her family was now raising her kids in poison. And Kody's response? He blamed the doctor. He told Robyn she was overreacting, that this was all stress-induced. Then he blamed the media. "They're trying to make us look stupid for buying this house," he said. "They want to see us fail." But the truth was simpler. He didn't want to admit that he'd failed them, because failure is the one thing Kody Brown can't accept. Every move he's made since Las Vegas has been about control over his wives. His image, his narrative. But this time nature itself was pushing back. The wind, the dust, the cracks, all of it was louder than his excuses. The crew captured one of the most haunting moments of the season during that time. Robyn standing by the back door, staring out at the red haze hanging over their yard. You can hear the mine in the distance. That dull, grinding hum. She says, "It's strange, you know. The more I clean, the dirtier it feels." That line made the final cut. Viewers thought it was symbolic, but it wasn't. It was literal. The dirt never stopped coming. Neighbors started calling it the red rain. When the winds shifted, it looked like the entire neighborhood was under a Mars-colored fog. Laundry hung outside came back orange. Cars had to be washed daily. People started moving away. Houses went up for sale. But Kody refused. "We're staying," he said. "This is where we rebuild." Rebuild what exactly? His family was scattered. His children avoided his calls. His reputation was shot. The wives were gone. And the one woman who stayed with him was now trapped in a house that symbolized everything wrong with his pride. Behind closed doors, Robyn begged him to move. She told him about the headaches, the nosebleeds, the kids' coughs. But he wouldn't listen. He said moving again would look weak. Because for Kody, perception is more important than protection. So Robyn stayed quiet. Again. She called contractors about sealing the windows. She bought industrial filters. She tried essential oils, air purifiers, even Himalayan salt lamps. None of it worked. The house wasn't just toxic, it was cursed. The walls creaked at night. The dust seeped through outlets and vents. Sometimes Robyn swore she could taste the metal in the air. She started sleeping with the kids in the same room, not because of comfort, because of fear. Every sound outside, the trucks, the grinding, the vibrations, reminded her how fragile her world really was. And Kody? He started spending more time away. Meetings, errands, business trips. Anything to avoid being home, because even he could feel it. The suffocation, the weight. The house wasn't peaceful. It was angry. Angry at being built on poisoned ground. Angry at the lies it was supposed to hide. By the time the holidays arrived, even TLC couldn't ignore the change. The footage looked off. The lighting, the air, the energy, everything felt heavy. Viewers later said the Brown house looked haunted. They weren't wrong. It was haunted, not by ghosts, but by choices. Every decision Kody and Robyn made, every move, every lie, every denial had built this place, and now it was crumbling around them. Their dream home had become a cage. Their fresh start had become a curse. And for the first time, Robyn Brown wasn't pretending anymore, because the air didn't just choke her lungs. It was choking her story. By the start of spring, the mine wasn't just in the distance anymore. It was everywhere. You could see it, smell it, feel it. Every gust of wind carried the sharp sting of red dust that clung to skin like rust. Inside, no matter how much Robyn cleaned, the air vents blew streaks of orange across the white walls. It was as if the house was bleeding, and the more she tried to fix it, the worse it got. She replaced every filter, installed double-pane windows, paid for industrial-grade purifiers. Still, the red haze crept in like smoke through cracks she couldn't see. Robyn's voice turned hoarse. Her eyes stayed red. She started losing sleep. The kids woke up coughing at night. Solomon had developed a rattle in his chest, and Ariella's inhaler was always within reach. But instead of empathy, Kody got angry. "You're making this bigger than it is," he snapped one night. "You're always emotional about everything." That word, emotional, hit her like a slap, because this wasn't emotion. It was survival. The irony was cruel. The woman who once moved mountains for Kody's comfort was now trapped inside one, suffocating under the dust he refused to acknowledge. Neighbors had started moving out again. Their once bustling cul-de-sac looked deserted. Mailboxes empty. For sale signs buried in the same red powder that coated their porch. Even the postman wore a mask. And still, Robyn smiled for the cameras. TLC returned to film a family catch-up episode. They wanted a scene in the backyard, a warm, hopeful shot of the family gathered under the Arizona sun. But the crew couldn't breathe. The air quality monitor showed dangerous levels of particulate matter. PM10 and PM25 readings high enough to trigger respiratory warnings. Production halted. They filmed inside instead. Inside, where the walls shook every time the mine trucks passed. Inside, where the illusion of family unity was fading faster than the paint. Because here's the truth. The house was never about the kids, or health, or new beginnings. It was about control. Kody had sold Robyn the dream of permanence. "Look," he told her, "this is where we'll grow old. This is where we'll bring the kids and the grandkids. This is the future." But every inch of that future was sinking in red dust, and Robyn was finally starting to see it. The foundation wasn't the only thing cracking. The marriage was too. Their arguments got shorter, sharper, colder. Kody would leave for business, sometimes for days. When he returned, the house smelled like silence. He blamed stress. She blamed the mine, but the truth was uglier. They both blamed each other. Robyn believed Kody had dragged them into this for the cameras. He wanted the biggest house, the biggest story, the biggest stage. Kody believed Robyn had become weak, always crying, always panicking, always turning the smallest issue into a crisis. Neither was wrong. They were both trapped in the same lie, pretending that wealth could buy peace, that space could heal damage, that a new address could erase a decade of dysfunction. Then came the night the storm hit. Flagstaff winds roared across the hills, carrying waves of red grit that slammed against the house like rain. Windows rattled. The roof groaned. The mine lights flickered in the distance like warning signals. By morning, the house was coated in a thick layer of red. The pool, the driveway, the cars, everything looked burned. Robyn broke down. She called Kody from the porch, crying so hard she could barely speak. "We can't live like this," she whispered. "The kids can't breathe." And for the first time, Kody didn't answer. He didn't come home that night. He didn't come home the next. When he finally showed up, it was late, and the cameras were gone. He stood in the doorway, staring at her like a stranger. "You wanted this," he said quietly. "You said you wanted to stay close to the church, to the girls. You made this choice too." And in that moment, she realized something. He wasn't talking about the house. He was talking about all of it. The show, the image, the loyalty, the life she defended while everyone else escaped. The mine wasn't the only thing poisoning them. It was the years of pretending, of protecting Kody's ego, of calling pain faith and control love. And now, standing in their $1 million prison, Robyn finally saw the truth. The air wasn't the only thing choking her. It was the marriage. It was the man. It was everything she'd built her world around. Mine outside just made it visible. By summer, the facade had fully collapsed. The cameras could no longer hide it, and neither could Robyn. Every new episode felt darker. Fans noticed it too. The glossy, upbeat tone of Sister Wives was gone. What replaced it was something raw, hollow, and strange. The once lively Flagstaff mansion now looked like a museum of regret. The furniture gleamed, but no one sat on it. The curtains stayed closed. And every surface, every table, every counter, every frame, had a faint film of red dust. It was inescapable and symbolic. Because that dust wasn't just from the mine. It was from years of denial settling over everything they'd touched. The irony didn't stop there. Robyn, who once made health and safety her trademark excuse for controlling family dynamics, was now living in a hazard zone. She couldn't let the kids play outside. Couldn't hang laundry to dry. Couldn't even open the windows, so they stayed inside. All day, every day, Solomon's asthma got worse. Aurora started having migraines. Brianna complained about sore throats and dry eyes. When the kids coughed, the sound echoed through the house like an accusation. And Kody? He called it growing pains. He told the crew they were adjusting, that Robyn was just overprotective again. But everyone around them knew the truth. This wasn't growing pains. This was decay. Decay of a family. A marriage. A delusion. Even TLC insiders began whispering that something was seriously wrong. Producers struggled to get footage of Kody and Robyn together. Their schedules didn't line up. Their arguments were too personal. Too hostile. In one unplanned scene that never aired, Robyn was filmed in the kitchen, wiping down a counter that was already spotless. Her voice cracked as she muttered, "No matter how hard I clean, it just comes back. The dust, the lies, the guilt. All of it came back." She looked up at the camera and said, almost to herself, "I don't even know what I'm protecting anymore." That clip was cut. Too real. Too revealing. But the internet didn't need the footage to figure it out. Fans started posting Google Maps screenshots of the mine. They zoomed in on the red pit behind the Browns' house and circled it in bright yellow. "This is where they live?" One comment read, "That's insane." Environmental reports confirmed what the fans suspected. The area's air quality was consistently rated unhealthy. The mine wasn't just nearby. It was active, and it wasn't just dust. It was silica, ash, and heavy metal particles small enough to enter the bloodstream. The same air their children were breathing every day. When the report leaked, it was over. TLC faced backlash. Viewers accused the network of exploiting a family living in dangerous conditions for the sake of drama. Critics called the Browns reckless and careless. But Robyn didn't care about the headlines anymore. She cared about the coughing, the headaches, the nightmares. She started dreaming about the mine. In her sleep, she could hear the trucks, the grinding, the vibrations through the floor. In one dream, she said she saw the red dust rising up from the earth and filling the house until everyone disappeared in it. And every morning, she woke up to find her pillow covered in red specks. The house wasn't just suffocating her, it was consuming her. Kody's patience was gone. He stopped pretending, he called her paranoid, told her she was embarrassing him, that she needed faith. But faith doesn't fix poisoned air, faith doesn't clean toxic dust from a child's lungs. Faith doesn't keep a family together when the foundation itself is cracked. Neighbors reported seeing Robyn crying in her car outside the church one Sunday, alone, no Kody, no cameras, just a woman who had finally realized that every promise he ever made about faith, about family, about safety, had turned to dust. And still, she stayed, not because she wanted to, because she didn't know how to leave. Where would she go? The money was tied up in the house. The show was tied to the marriage. Her name was tied to his debts. She was buried in it all. The air, the lies, the house. A mansion worth over $2 million, surrounded by silence and red haze. It was supposed to be the dream home. Now, it was a grave. A monument to everything Kody and Robyn built, and everything they destroyed trying to keep it. But the worst part? They were still pretending it was fine, at least until the cameras caught what came next, because the house wasn't done breaking them yet. By mid-autumn, the red dust had become their new wallpaper. Every corner of the house looked tired. Every breath felt heavy. But the real storm wasn't outside. It was inside. The cracks that started in whispers had turned into shouting matches. TLC crews tried to film, but the footage was unusable. Screaming, doors slamming, crying kids. This wasn't TV drama anymore. This was real. Robyn's patience was gone. She confronted Kody one night in the kitchen, surrounded by half-packed boxes and unopened air purifiers. Her voice trembled as she said, "We can't live here anymore, Kody. This place is killing us." He didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Just stared at her like she'd said something absurd. "This house," he said, "is our testimony. It shows we didn't give up." "I won't run again," Robyn laughed, but it wasn't joy. It was disbelief. "Testimony?" she snapped. "You think God cares about this house? Our kids can't breathe, and you're talking about appearances." Kody's jaw tightened. "You always make it about feelings. About emotion. You don't understand leadership." That word again. Leadership. It was the same excuse he used to justify every failure. Every ruined relationship, every time he chose control over compassion, but this time it didn't work. Robyn didn't cry. She didn't plead. She just walked away. The next morning she started taking pictures, the vents coated in orange. The windowsills lined with red streaks, the kids' toys covered in fine grit. She wasn't just documenting it for the doctor anymore. She was building evidence. Because deep down, she knew where this was heading. Not another move. Not another fresh start. Something final. Something public. TLC had already caught wind of her frustration. They pushed for a truth episode, a sit-down special to clear the air. The producers wanted transparency, but what they got was chaos. When the cameras rolled, Robyn's tone was calm but cold. She said, "I thought this house would be peace, but I think God's showing me something. You can't build peace on poisoned ground." Kody smirked, the same smirk that made millions of viewers furious. "That's dramatic, Robyn," he said. "You're acting like a victim again." And then it happened. Robyn looked straight into the camera. "No tears, no filter, just exhaustion. I'm not the victim, Kody. The kids are." The silence that followed was brutal. Even the producers froze, because that one sentence wasn't scripted. It wasn't part of the narrative. It was real, and it shattered everything Kody had built around his image. The moment the episode aired, social media erupted. Fans flooded the internet with clips and screenshots. Robyn finally broke. She's done protecting him. This is the beginning of the end. For the first time, the audience wasn't divided. They agreed. The perfect couple had cracked open, and the rot inside was visible. Behind the scenes, Kody was furious. He called the episode a betrayal. He accused TLC of twisting his words. He accused Robyn of sabotaging him, but Robyn didn't fight back. She didn't explain herself. She just went quiet. A quiet that scared him more than any argument ever could. She started sleeping in the guest suite, the one above the garage. The same one that used to be reserved for guests. She said the air felt cleaner there. It wasn't. But it felt farther away from him. At night, the cameras caught her sitting by the window, looking toward the mine's orange lights flickering in the distance. It looked like fire. And maybe, in her mind it was, because the house had stopped being a home a long time ago. Now, it was a warning, a reminder of what happens when pride builds walls thicker than love. When denial replaces faith. When you care more about how you look than who you're hurting, Robyn's Eyes told the whole story. This wasn't about the dust anymore. This was about every lie she'd swallowed, every sacrifice she'd made, every time she'd defended a man who used her loyalty as armor. The red dust was just the final layer, a perfect symbol of what happens when you bury the truth long enough. It finds a way to rise, coat everything, and never wash off. By the end of that season, even Kody knew something had changed. He wasn't leading a family anymore. He was standing alone in a mansion filled with ghosts of his own making. The dream home had turned into a tomb, and Robyn, for the first time in years, was ready to leave it behind. Winter came early to Flagstaff that year. Cold winds blew over Sheep Hill, carrying the red dust through the valley like smoke from a dying fire. By then, almost every neighbor had moved away. Their cul-de-sac looked like a ghost town, the for sale signs tilted, half buried in the dirt. Inside the 2 million house, silence ruled, no laughter. No filming. No Future.TLC had quietly suspended production after the explosive Truth episode. Sponsors were pulling back. The audience's sympathy was gone. The network wanted a pause, but Kody saw it as punishment. He paced the empty living room at night, muttering about loyalty and respect. But the louder he got, the quieter Robyn became. The children had started spending nights away, staying with friends, taking short college trips, avoiding home whenever they could. It wasn't just about the dust anymore. It was about breathing space, literal and emotional. Robyn stayed in the guest suite, her things neatly packed into boxes she never opened. Sometimes she'd stand by the window and watch the mine lights flicker. Those orange glows had haunted her dreams for months. But now, they just looked like exit signs. The house felt alive. It creaked. It groaned, and sometimes it shook as the mining trucks rumbled through the night. The walls were thin, but the tension was thicker than ever. Then one morning, Robyn made her move. She called a realtor, not the one who sold them the house, a new one. Quiet, professional, discreet. "I need an appraisal," she said softly. "For what purpose?" the agent asked. "To see what it's worth," she replied, "before it takes everything from me." That line summed it up, because that's what this house had done, taken everything. Her peace, her faith, her health, her family. The agent came 2 days later, wearing a respirator mask. He took pictures, measured air quality, and didn't say much. When he left, he simply handed Robyn a note. "Beautiful home," he said. "Wrong location." The appraisal came back at $1.3 million and nearly $800,000 less than they paid. Between the mine, the air warnings, and the negative publicity, no one wanted it. And for the first time, Robyn didn't cry. She just nodded, like she'd already mourned it months ago. That evening, she found Kody in the main room, staring at the fireplace that hadn't been lit in weeks. "I had the house appraised," she said. He didn't turn around. "Why?" "Because I'm done pretending," she answered. He finally faced her, his voice low, defensive. "You're leaving?" Her reply was quiet, but certain. "No, Kody. The house is leaving us." That sentence hit harder than any fight, because deep down, he knew she was right. Every lie, every excuse, every fresh start. It had all led here. A $1 million mistake built on pride and denial. The house was never a home. It was a monument to their collapse. A week later, the for sale sign went up. No cameras, no press. Just a quiet surrender. The neighbors watched from behind dusty windows as movers came and went. Boxes marked Ariella, Solomon, and kitchen piled up in the driveway. By sunset, all that was left was an empty porch and a door that didn't quite close anymore. When Robyn took one last look inside, she whispered, "I thought this was where life would begin again." Then she stepped outside and closed the door behind her. The wind picked up. A swirl of red dust swept across the lawn, curling around her car before settling back over the driveway. As if the earth itself was reclaiming what it was owed, Kody stayed behind for a few days. He called it tying up loose ends, but the truth was simpler. He couldn't admit defeat, He slept in the empty living room. No furniture, no noise. Just the hum of the mine in the distance. Every sound echoed. Every silence accused. He told himself he'd find another house. Another dream. Another chapter. But deep down, he knew this was the last one. Because the problem was never the house. It was him. The mine didn't destroy their family. It exposed it. The dust didn't just cover the floors. It revealed everything they'd been trying to hide. And when the wind blew through those broken windows one last time, it carried the final truth. You can change your address. You can buy new walls. But you can't escape yourself. That's what the $2 million mansion had taught them. That's what it cost them to learn. As the camera crew drove away for good, one of the producers whispered, "It's like the house swallowed them whole." Maybe it did. Because in the end, the dream home didn't just trap them in red dust. It trapped them in their own story. And that story, full of pride, control, and denial, finally reached its last page. The screen fades to black. The mine lights flicker one last time. And in the quiet, only one question remains. Was it worth it? Because no one escapes the dust forever.